Still time for everybody. No, as I've been telling you since last week, that we are going to have special visitors today. About 5 Sundays ago, we have been using the students to give us the dose of the words. And you know, throughout the country, people are gathering together in different places now. And what they are telling them is how to behave normally in the country Nigeria. No town or no village where we don't see people gather together now. And we are here in our own church as I used to be. We are here in our own church, whereby when you get home, tell your parents we have a church here. And the name of our church is community gathering. And as we are here, all what we are here for is to get ourselves prepared for the week and to receive a dose of the word. And the dose of the word is an advice, whereby you need to behave well, do the right thing at the right time, be at the right place at the right time. Here today, we are having a guest in our midst. We have the providers also here. We have somebody here also here to give us the dose of the word. Uganda, come and tell us something about the guest.
Her name is Mr. Fola Daniel Adelesi. Fola Daniel, popularly known today, was a student here in Mayflower School between 1996 and 2003. He had an adventurous stay in Mayflower from being admitted to the benefit program and reporting to jail one day to being finally got a chance to complete his grade by representing the school at debate and speeches before he became the senior prefect in 2002. And a master of ceremony. He helps young people discover themselves and constantly encourages them to be the best they can possibly be. To my fellow students, I hereby invite Mr. Fola Daniel Adelesi.
I think I can still recognize a few faces here. Sorry to disappoint you, maybe not the students, but at least one or two of the ones and lecturers I definitely recognize Mr. Charcoal. Something that can make me also recognize you, just as I recognize the feel for people who were here when I was a student. And what can actually help me recognize you 10 years from now is what we're doing today.
Back then, we didn't have it this posh. And I can tell you, it may not be as posh as all the private schools in Lagos, but this is posh. And you understand what I'm talking about. Because in our days, we still had planks around here. And I remember coming in here as a GSS1 student, sitting on one of those planks and hoping to be able to transit from the planks down here. But it was a whole lot of process, transiting from sitting on the planks to this place. Some things happened. When I was coming into Mayflower School, I had a sister back then who was an SS3 student. She was quite excited that I was coming to Mayflower School. Just like every other person in my house, we have a lot of ex-mates. I have an uncle who's an ex-mate. I think I must count about 10 uncles who are ex-mates. My biological sister is an ex-mate. I'm an ex-mate. I have at least 3 younger cousins who are ex-mates. It's just a family of ex-mates. One of my uncles who lives in London at the moment, who just got married again, he's an ex-mate and married an ex-mate. Now, my point really is not about being an ex-mate. The point really is not about being an ex-mate. The point is about standing tall some years from now and be able to say that I went through a particular school and I didn't just go through the school also went through me. So let's title this, The Insurance for Your Future. And I call this the insurance for your future, understanding the fact that quite a number of the people in the commercial class might be able to connect absolutely well. But in my little understanding, I can help those of you who are in the commercial class to connect with this. And please do me a favor to listen more than you're willing to give me an ovation. I am not here for your ovation. I'm here to impart knowledge. If I need an ovation, I'll be on television or radio station, and I do that quite often. You don't understand, maybe some of you have heard me on radio or seen me on television, being on the debating TV reality show, quite a number of other TV shows. But that's not the point here today. I'm back here as somebody who has gone through this phase and to help you understand that this is the insurance you need for your future. Let me try to explain insurance to you without necessarily giving it a definition. I have an insurance policy, which is quite rare in this part of the world. I'm sure you know that. You know, if you live in London, if you live in the United States, it's quite an easy thing to say that I have an insurance policy. But it's rare here in this part of the world. Take for instance, if you have a car and you have an insurance on that car, if it's a comprehensive insurance, which is another word for comprehensive, total insurance, it means that if anything goes wrong with that car, if the car is involved in an accident, you can go back to the insurance company and say this was what happened, and you did not damage the car accidentally. And because you did not damage the car, you did not damage the car intentionally. And because you did not damage the car intentionally, the insurance company will investigate what happened and can replace the car for you. If they cannot give you the entire sum for the car, they can at least give you a reasonable sum, which will be close to the cost of the car. While hoping I'm not speaking too much English, I'm still hoping that I'm getting my message across. Now, if you don't have a comprehensive insurance, if you have a third-party insurance, as we would say in this present day, it means that because you pay the insurance company a particular amount, maybe on a monthly basis or maybe on an annual basis, if you damage another person's car, it's called a third party this time around. So if you damage another person's car, you can send that person to the insurance company, and instead of you having to pay for the damages, the insurance company pays, and that's because you already paid an amount to the insurance company, which is called your premium. And so the insurance company takes care of that car instead of you paying for the car. Why am I telling you all of this? The first thing you must recognize is the fact that your parents have already paid your premium. The premium your parents are paying right now is the premium for your future. And because your parents have already paid the premium, you call it school fees, you call it hostel fees, or tuition, whatever it is that you call it. But as far as I'm concerned, I call it the premium for your future. And because the premium for your future is being paid, nobody can actually say to you tomorrow that you didn't have a pedigree. In case you're just hearing the word pedigree, it simply has to do with your background, your foundations. Where are you coming from? If I ask you, what's your pedigree? I'm simply asking you, where are you coming from? What background do you have? What experience? What is your foundation? This is your pedigree. This is the foundation that is being laid for you. This, again, as I say, is the insurance for your future. And why is this the insurance for your future? Remember what I explained a few minutes ago on the insurance. I did say that if anything goes wrong with the car, you can go to the insurance company and make claims, and you get paid. But this is a different sort of insurance. It's the kind of insurance that you don't even have to make claims in the future. It's the kind of insurance that you get the benefits right away. As you pay your premium, knowledge is being imparted to you. As you sit here, trying to be studious, trying to create a future for yourself, everything you need for that future is being given to you, just like an identity card. You know that if you go for some events, if you don't have a tag, or if you don't have an invitation card, you know you'll be denied access into the hall, isn't it? The education you're getting right now is your identification tag. And if you don't take it right now, if you don't get the best of it right now, then you are already denying yourself access into that future event where governors and presidents and ministers and the movers and shakers of this world are going to be sitting down. And guess what? The future is not actually far away. But before I sound too illusional, before I sound too far away from you, let me give you an idea of my own brief stay here in Mayflower. When I came in, you heard from my profile, unfortunately quite a number of you didn't listen, and I write deliberately for people to pick in between the lines. I did mention that when I first came in, I was a bit playful. Maybe I didn't hear anybody, maybe I didn't have anybody to tell me that this was an insurance for my future. So my being playful had to be with the fact that, or had to do with the fact that, first, it was my first time of being free. I was coming from the very watchful eyes of my parents into the hostels where I had some sort of freedom. Nobody decided for you, at least some of the time, what you needed to do. You had a golden chance to decide your life. You had some games period you could play around while some other people chose to read. And I didn't really understand what it was to be studious at that time. And guess what? There used to be a quote on this side of the wall, I don't know if it's gone. It says, you are an important fragment in the national development. Study hard to show yourself approved. And there was one down here. It says, if you cannot be the son, be what? It's obviously gone. We had some of those quotes. When you come to the assembly in those days and you cannot recite these things, you were dealt with. You were beaten. Beaten because we didn't understand that all these words were not ordinary words. They were words for our future. And on this place, okay, thank God this one is still there. We compare with the best boys and girls in the universe. Your competition is not the person in that school in Ikene. Your competition is not with the person in the neighboring schools in the Shagamu. You'll be a local champion till you would compare yourselves with them. You know who your competitions are? The folks in the United States, the folks in the United Kingdom. And I'm not trying to excite you, because when you get into the real world, you realize that these are the people you have to compete with. These are people who are studying with tablets on a daily basis, These are people who were not only studying with tablets, they had electricity all year round. They have nearly everything working for them, but you have to create your own environment. And still, the world does not recognize that you're coming from a different environment. The world still expects you to compete with those people, regardless of your own disadvantages. So when I came in as a GS1 student, I was playing. And you know, in those days, we had what we call let my people go. GS1, I scaled through, let my people go. GS2, I scaled through. GS3, I scaled through. I finally got to SS1, I couldn't scale through. I had to repeat that class. But do you know why somebody who was once repeated a class can stand in front of you and talk to you? It's because something changed. It was no longer about me. As a matter of fact, until I go to places and I mention it, nobody ever remembered the fact that I repeated a class. All my colleagues did not remember. My seniors did not remember. A whole lot of my juniors didn't even know at all. Why? The same young man who repeated a class for failing mathematics and English now speaks to them. I may not speak the quiz English, but when I speak, I know people listen. And at least I've had quite a few compliments saying, you speak good English. But here's the major message. When I repeated, you could say I came to my senses. One day, a teacher walked into our class, and I hope that teacher is still in Mayflower School. I don't know where, but I can mention his name. His name is Mr. Okeke. The first day Mr. Okeke walked into the class, he was simply full of smiles. And because he was smiling, I just fell in love with him. And I naturally wanted to be his friend. So what did I do? Because I loved him immediately. I walked up to Mr. Okeke, writing essays on my own, or writing articles on my own, and I would give the articles to him and ask him to correct them. I gave him a lot of troubles. When I say a lot of trouble, I mean I kept writing, I never got tired of writing, I kept taking the article to him, he would correct my article, but one day I took my article to Mr. Okeke, he had nothing to correct. When Mr. Okeke had nothing to correct, I said, yes, now this makes perfect sense, because it proved to me that my writing had greatly improved. And not only did my writing improve, quite a number of teachers began to notice me, quite a number of my students began to notice me. Now let me tell you a funny part, and I hope you don't laugh about it, even though I said it's funny. When I repeated, I was made the assistant class captain in a class of repeaters. After I was made the assistant class captain in a class of repeaters, I decided to give an acceptance speech. I've just been made the assistant class captain in a class full of repeaters, and then I decided to make an acceptance speech. And guess what? It was one of the best decisions so far in my life. When I started talking, some of my colleagues in the other classes who were just getting into SS1, who were not repeating, went to call themselves and said, come and listen to this guy. He's making real sense. Come and listen to him. And guess what? When I finished my acceptance speech, which was more like a celebrity speech at that time, they insisted that the person who was the real class captain must also deliver a speech. So they forced, unfortunately, as we used to say, we had a slang then. I said, I cobalized him. Cobalized from the word coba, which is actually a Yoruba word. So I cobalized the guy, which was in a way to say that, let's just say I implicated him. And he was mandated to deliver an acceptance speech. Unfortunately, that was not his skill. You know, to an extent I could say I'm a natural orator. And then my temperament is sanguine, if you understand temperaments. So I'm a natural speaker. I don't need to prepare for speeches, even though sometimes I compel myself to. But given the shortest possible notice, I can deliver any speech. So when I did that, they now made it to deliver a speech as well. And that was when people began to pay attention to me. I was a repeater. And then they needed somebody to represent the school in debates. They started looking for me. And don't forget, in all of those days, I was taking my articles to Mr. Okeke. So I became Mr. Okeke's very good friend. And after I became his friend and I was improving with my essays, I realized that as my English improved, I could excel better at the other subjects. Because virtually every subject is just about understanding English. My theory may not have been proven so far, but I know that if you speak good English, you can interpret English, you understand it, you will excel better at those other subjects. Except for maybe Yoruba English and except for maybe Yoruba and Igbo, which is not taught in English language. So my grades gradually improved. And I always remember this. And I always have Mr. Okeke to say, thank you, because he paid attention to me. And that attention changed something. And guess what? I also got to that time when we had at least 4,000 students. Thank God I mentioned 2 people earlier who were here then, so they will attest to what I'm telling you. I stood on this stage on a daily basis, addressing over 4,000 students. So it was my wonderful platform into the speaking world. Now imagine that, if any speaker had the opportunity to address 4,000 people on a daily basis, you would call him an international speaker. But here was I addressing 4,000 students on a daily basis. And if you have the privilege to address your colleagues on this stage, let me give you a golden chance. If you don't make the most of it, you are losing the opportunity to seize something in your future. Sometimes when I go for events, some of them who were my seniors or a few of them who were my colleagues and juniors who remembered me for being the senior prefect, they look at me and they honor me. They give me a front row seat. Some of them cannot call me by my name. Not because I'm a monster to them, but they still feel awkward calling me my name. They can't call me my first name. They still call me SP. Why? It was the impact. I seized the opportunity back then. I didn't know it was my insurance then, but I was making my claims. I was taking it then. And today, when I go into the gathering of ex-mates, especially those of them who were around when I was around, they cannot, even the best students of those days, they cannot sit and not stand up when I walk in. But remember, it was the same person who repeated the class. And then I saw one teacher walk into my class because he was smiling, and I decided on my own to make a difference by taking my articles to him. And I kept writing until he had nothing to correct. And guess what today? I've published at least 3 books in print. And I run a blog, if you know what a blog is. How many of you know what a blog is? And I run a blog today. And on my blog, I have over 850 articles. As a whole on the internet, I can lay claim to at least 1,000 articles on the internet. And I still write on a daily basis. I still wrote an article published on my blog last night. I wrote one for this morning, and by the time I'm off here, in another 1 hour, another article is going up on my blog. And it is the same thing that is bringing me recognition today. And in all of this, I made all my papers at one sitting. I did my work once. I never had any chance. I didn't give myself the chance of going back to another school to go and write my work. I didn't give myself that chance. And of course, I also made my jam once. And thankfully, in those days, there was nothing you call post-UTME. And let me also give you the secret from my jam. I knew my strength was with English language as a subject. I was also very good with literature. I liked government. So I just looked for 4 major subjects that I understood very well. I passed English without stress. Literature was a bit complex, but I knew I was good at it. Because, okay, I'll still get to that part. But at least I chose 4 subjects that I was very good at. And maybe I didn't score excellently well, but at least I passed my jam at one sitting. As I speak to you, I have never had any cause to tender my NECO result anywhere. It was the right result that I used. But remember, GSS 1, it was. GSS 2, it was. GSS 3, it was. Until I got spotless as 1. So what am I trying to tell you? Even though you may have failed, even though you may not be at your best, to get to the best, it is still your choice. There's nobody who is excelling so much today that you cannot do as well as they are doing or even attempt to do better. And I remember one of my major experiences. There was one student then that we used to call Iyayi Emokwai. You know, the best students will remember themselves. Iyayi Emokwai was the best student as far as written English was concerned then. And I remember one day, then we used to call it B2 down. In front of B2 down, between B2 and B3 down, Iyayi Emokwai walked up to me and said, Fola, you know what? As far as writing English is concerned, I may be the best. In terms of the grades, actually. But as far as speaking English is concerned, in this school, you are the best students. So I looked at it. Here was the best students as far as the grades were concerned. Walking up to me and say, as far as speaking it is concerned, you are the best. And guess what? I still speak that English today, and I make a whole lot of money from speaking that English. If this wasn't Mayflower School, I would have built to speak here. Because that's what I do for a living today. I speak that same English that made me fail. I speak that same English to make money today. I speak as a motivational speaker in different conferences and seminars. I've had privileges to represent my own university. I've spoken on national television. I get invitations to speak on radio. I have quite a number of radio shows of my own. And guess what? All those people who talk on radio, what do? We simply talk to you. Sometimes we even tell you the things you already know. And we still make money. How do we make our money? Corporate organizations come and put up commercials on our radio shows, and we make money. And while we're making money, you sit down there, you listen to us. But guess what? Some other people can also sit and listen to you while you make the money. But that's only if you are taking the insurance that your parents have already given to you right now. As I said when I started, this is the insurance for your future. If you don't take it now, then you are already losing your access into a wonderful future. You may not have been a very good student before now, but I already told you how I managed to get to SS1, repeated the class, and then got close to one teacher who, and guess what, let me also tell you one other thing that getting close to Mr. Okeke did to me. When I got close to him, because we used to have a staff room, and then all the teachers also had friends. All the friends of Mr. Okeke knew that I was a favorite for Mr. Okeke. And guess what that did to me? All those other teachers had high expectations from me. So I was conscious of their expectations, and because I was conscious of their expectations, I had to study hard. I had to work on myself, and then I became the lost property officer in SS2 before finally contesting to the senior prefect. It had never been done before my time that first of all I was coming from the commercial class to be the senior prefect, and plus the fact that I had already repeated. I didn't know, I didn't hear, it has never been recorded that somebody who once repeated became the senior prefect. And of course you know what it takes to become the senior prefect in a school like Mayflower School. It was no longer the dowload that was in the junior class that became the senior prefect. Something had what? Changed. And then I used to try to speak to impress. The English word for it is to be grandiloquent. I used to be grandiloquent. Until Mr. Kolawole and Mr. Okeke told me, there's no point being grandiloquent. There's no point trying to speak big words that half of the people who are listening to you don't even understand. Sometimes to communicate in a very simple language makes your message last longer. And that's what I've been doing in all of those years, till today. So when those other teachers had expectations of me, I had to work harder. And when I became the senior prefect, I knew I had extra work to do. And guess what, in my time? Maybe if you have some of your seniors, your older cousins or your elder brothers who know me very well, quite a number of them didn't like me when I was a senior prefect. And I'll tell you why they didn't like me. I was quite strict. I was visionary. I saw myself as somebody leading a nation, not somebody leading just a group of people who didn't know what to do with themselves. And so I brought quite a number of things. I was doing so many things and I was constantly talking, trying to make some people change. Unfortunately, I couldn't change some of those people. It is sad to say that a few weeks back I saw an ex-mate, and I can't proudly say that this is an ex-mate because of the state in which I saw him. And it was one of those students I used to talk to them. And there are still quite a number of them who send me mails from around the world who say, we still respect you. You were the best prefect then. You are this, you are that. But it was all from this place. So what's my message for you today? Because I understand quite a number of you may have a very short attention span. So I want to wrap up by saying, you are already in the incubator for your future, or you already have the incubator for your future. If you don't guard the incubator jealously, or you don't properly ensure the incubation process of your future, then don't blame your parents for the results you get in the future. Don't blame the Nigerian government for the results that you get tomorrow. Quite a number of people can wake up and say, it's the Nigerian government. See what they've done to us. They are not giving us a future. We don't have electricity. We don't have good roads.